Okay, I'm Sid, he, the she, and I have a question. My first question is, do you like it when I make videos this way, or do you like it when I make videos this way? Because I never make videos this way, but I notice some people do that way or that way. See, if I'm not using my camera phone from my arm position, this is actually easier because I got to turn my. If I turn it this way, then I've just got more bends in my wrist and elbow. But if you want me to be going this way, because I'm looking. Look how my eyes are right now. Like my eyes here, they're pointing up here, right? But truthfully, I am staring right there, and when I'm staring right there, it looks like I'm. It's just the way that the camera is. Whereas if I'm here, I'm looking directly into the camera, and it looks like I'm going directly into the camera. Does it drive you crazy? I'm going to keep it this way just because it's easier on my hand. Okay, so that's just the housekeeping stupid thing, but I had to try it. Let's see. So my friend wants to know because I keep talking about how everything is in consciousness. So I've got these glasses, and I keep saying, well, in everyday language, we say these glasses are a physical item, right? But then I always remind you that there is no such thing as physical because everything is in consciousness. And I'm confusing some of my friends, so maybe I'm confusing you. It's because we're using two different maps of reality. Someone said I've had enough of this hood. But two different maps of reality. One is the Newtonian map of reality, and it's the billiard ball map. If you think of a pool table with pool balls or billiard balls, the idea way back in the 1700 was that this is how matter works. It's atoms, everything is atoms go way back to ancient Greek and like Plato. But when we modern day look at atoms, you go look for subatomic particles, and I don't know. I mean, I didn't do all this testing, right? I didn't do all these experiments. I'm simply reporting what they say, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller. And in the end, they say like atoms are 99.99999% empty space. And is there anything solid at all? Um, If you can find a modern day physicist that says that there's actually something solid in these subatomic particles, I mean, they do show that there's some paths. They map the paths of subatomic particles in places like CERN. It's a map. It's a map. And I get all kinds of different reality maps together. And, people are saying, well, over on the map on the left, you have this. And in your map in the middle, you've got kind of a different map. And your map over on the far right is another map. And it's true. It's true. It's very hard to jump from one map to another map to another map because they're made by different map makers. And this is the same thing if you look at a map of the world. There's the Mercator projection and a whole pile of other kinds of projections, equal area projection. There's different ways of mapping our Earth, and they look different. And someone says, yeah, or you could put it on a globe. Yes. So different ways of map making to try and help you interpret what the land masses and the seas are on planet Earth. And it's the same when we're trying to really get down to reality, because we have different people who've studied it and have expressed it in different ways. So getting back to the question, we call this physical. But when you drill down into the molecules and into the atoms, into the subatomic particles, is there anything actually physical here? I'm not an expert. But if they say it's 99.999% empty space, you're looking at something that is empty space. This thing here, it's empty space. And then you can go, someone says, well, then you can go into like measuring things via fields. And you can say, well, there's fields here, like magnetic fields. I don't know what you would call them. Atomic fields, subatomic fields. But it's the fields that energetically push against other fields, or glue them together, that make something solid, and what we call matter. I don't think I'm answering my friend's question. I don't think I'm answering his question, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to. And then there's the next part of it. Okay, so if we go to a different map, I've got this thing, and I'm looking at it with my eyes. Okay, so this thing is outside of me. And what happens is my eyes look at this and get an image. And my hand gets sensations, because this seems to have some weight to it. So what happens is the sensations in my hand and the images from my eyes get sent through my nerves and into my brain. And in my brain, I am actually creating I'm not creating this thing outside of me in my brain. Well, in my brain, I've got a visual map from my eyes and these physical sensations from my hand. And my brain puts all of this sensory data together and it feeds it to my mind. So, my mind, it only has sensations, and it puts together an image and a feel that we say, well, this is a pair of physical glasses in my hand. But to my mind, I have got a very sophisticated sensory apparatus, the body and the nerves and the brain, putting together all of this stuff for my mind, and my mind says, well, you've got this thing in your hand. But everything that's inside of my brain that's mapping all this information, that's a map of something outside of my physical body. So what I have and what I'm viewing with my mind, I'm not viewing this thing directly. What my mind is viewing is all of the sensory information that comes from my hand and from my eyes, and it's all put together in the brain and then fed to the mind. So it's whatever the brain puts together from all these sensory data that goes to my mind. So I'm not actually perceiving this thing in of itself. What I'm perceiving is, the light that's going from this thing into my eye, and it gets translated in the optic nerve to chemical electrical signals that go deep inside the brain to the visual cortex. And it's the same thing for the hand that's sensing weight in this thing. The sensory of the weight when I move this around is also going into the brain, and it's being converted into chemical electrical signals. And all that stuff that's what gets fed to the mind. It's not this thing directly. We can't perceive this thing directly. We got to use senses. And that's why we have things like optical illusions, because our senses can be fooled. So when we say this is a physical thing, it's really the package that my brain has put together and fed to my mind. And it's what we call physical. But what does this thing really look like? Because we're even now, the phone camera is picking up the light from this thing. You're not getting the weight sensations, but you're getting the light, and you're looking at a screen, and your eyes are taking it in. But me holding this thing, and I'm thinking I'm looking at it, I'm not really looking at this thing. I'm looking at everything my sensations have put together. So this thing that I think I'm looking at, it's more steps than me just perceiving it directly. What is this thing really? If I don't have my senses, I don't know that this thing even exists. A lot more questions come up now, because we're so used to our senses, and we say, I'm looking at it, and that's just normal English. But because of all these extra steps that go on with the brain, putting it all together, I don't know what I want to say. This thing we call physical, because but is it physical? Okay, and then my friend wants me to jump over to the Matrix movies. When Keanu Reeves was in that pod thing, when they showed you that instead of him walking around in the real world, he was plugged in to some kind of a computer simulation. His body was plugged in. So his brain couldn't tell that. He didn't know that he was plugged into a computer simulation of our world. It's just like me. You look at this thing here, but if we were in the Matrix movie, this could all be just a computer simulation. Because we're not perceiving anything directly. It's going through either Keanu Reeves, the computer that's hooked up directly to his brain, or it's going through my eyes and being converted into something into my brain. Whatever this really is, we're limited to using our brain. Is there anyone that can see this stuff without using their brain power? I don't know. So back to what I always say, everything is in consciousness. And my friend wants to say, well, what if everything is dead, physical matter outside of us? And it's just the map of these glasses that you're perceiving. So yes, in your consciousness, in your mind, which is one step back of your brain, it's all consciousness. But he's saying maybe this thing is material. Maybe it is dead material. And it's, all your sensations are in consciousness, but this thing here might not be in consciousness. And he wants me to talk about double slit experiments again, for that the observer effect and what have you. What is alive and what is dead? In the Newtonian paradigm, the billiard balls are all dead material. Rock is dead material. Whatever they put together for billiard balls is, it's whatever they use to make it, chalk or something, and glue. And we still, everyday life, say, well, that's dead stuff. So why do I keep saying it's in consciousness? Am I wrong? My friend is huffing and puffing like he's running a marathon trying to keep up with me. The answer is, I can't tell you. Why can't I tell you? Because I can't tell you what this is without using my senses. Now, maybe I can come up with a thought experiment to explain this thing, but I don't have one right now. So stay tuned, because I'm going to see if I can come up with a thought experiment that will prove that this stuff, these glasses that are outside of my body, are not dead matter, that they are something, some aspect of consciousness. Now he wants me to talk about ideas. I think it's a related thing to Plato. I don't know how to do it. I need a break. I'm telling my friend, I need a break. I've talked long enough, and we'll come back to the idea of Platonic ideas or something.